Hi guys, I'm just coming to you with a midday review of the trades that we had spoken about on the last video from yesterday evening. So this is in relation to some earnings plays. So we had a few names on the docket for potential trades for today, as well as some trades from yesterday that we held overnight as swing trades. So we'll be talking about a couple of those too. So we'll start here with Roku. Roku is a trade that we had actually talked about from yesterday due to earnings being, let's see, I believe they were night before last. Yes. So here's the earnings jump, and we talked about Roku being a buy over the 50 to 70 level at the time, which was a pivot point here, this 52.70. So we talked about either being aggressive and buying it over 51.91, or waiting until it crossed over that pivot of 52.70 and buying it there. So that's one trade that that actually seems to have worked out pretty well. Yesterday I bought a call option on Roku around the 53.50 level. I actually held it overnight for a swing trade and did sell it today into some strength. I actually sold it this morning because it was only a 7-day weekly option. So I sold it this morning into this strength as it started kind of backing out into, like backing down from this 58.80 all-time high. So I did sell my option, my call option from yesterday with a nice profit. And I actually kept watching Roku for a cross over the 58.80 level. We talked about this on the 2 days ago, where if it crossed over 58.80, that would be a bullish breakout of a reverse head and shoulders pattern. And you can see here that 58.80 did break out today, and there is a push above that. It was a very, actually pretty hard push right away up to the $60 level. I did get in with another option, a little like an August 21st, a little longer term option right here at the 58.80 level, and was able to take some profits as it started coming down here. Just because of that fast move, actually, it was, almost $2 just right away. So you can see here it's actually coming down right now and consolidating a bit on this 50 moving average on the 5-minute chart. It could potentially, just be consolidating for another breakout. It did have a huge move yesterday, and it had a pretty big move today. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it come back down to test at least the 58.80 level prior to potentially going back up again. So that's Roku. We'll talk about also, some other stocks. We had Booking.com as well as Zillow. So actually Zillow is the one that we traded yesterday, or day before yesterday. And that's actually not looking so hot today. So if you recall, I actually traded this twice. The earnings trade was a bounce off of that long-term long-term trend line here. And we, on the second day, I bought a call at the $50 level. As the stock was hitting 50, I bought a 90 delta call on Zillow, and sold half of it at the 51.06 touch there. Now, I still had some of Zillow, and yesterday the action wasn't so great, but I decided to give it another chance because it did kind of do a hammer type of move where it came down and went right back up and has a really small body here and a long tail to the downside. So my thought was maybe it would just continue to go up on that momentum. But the market was actually pretty weak today in the morning. And Zillow sold off along with the market. So this here, so I'm actually negative on this position now, because it's a little bit lower than when I entered it at 50. So I have a stop set for this. So my stop is always the bottom of the first bar where I will be trading above. So, for example, I bought into this stock at $50, right, which was right above the high of this day when it had earnings. So my stop here would be down here at this. Actually, my stop's at the trend line, so I have a hard stop at the trend line. It's a mental stop, but if this chart pattern starts breaking to this trend line, that's a bearish sign, and that's actually what my long-term goal for this was, was for it to turn over and go down back through the trend line and down even to the 4630 level. It was my first target. So I was actually looking exactly for this. I was looking for kind of a relief rally up to potentially 5205 and then a turn back down to the downside, and then I was going to get into it on the short side through this trend line. Now, I will still get into it if it crosses down below this trend line. Don't get me wrong, I'll just have to reverse my position. But that is my stop. So, it's a rising trend line, so we'll just keep that on watch to see that it doesn't go below the trend line. So that's Zillow and kind of the goal there. Let's see, the other stock that we're holding right now, holding options in, is GDX. So yesterday, this is again a long-term, it's like a 2.5 month option out 2.5 months from today. And the reason that we purchased this again, it is a break of a trend line, break of a pivot line rather, to the downside. So 3 days ago, I bought a put option in GDX, a longer term put option on this day here on the 7th, and it did kind of crack back through that 2090 stop that was supposed to be my stop, but because it was such a quick move, I've retained it. So you can see today it's actually continuing its move to the downside. So bearish on GDX. Gold's actually down today too because of the strength in the dollar and the weakness in the foreign currencies. So this is only helping GDX move to the downside even more. So my stop is going to stay at 2091. I actually might go ahead and put an alert here at the top of this body at 2084. To see if it goes up above that. It may need to be looked at for covering. So that is GDX. Now the 3 stocks, we actually looked at 4 stocks for today for earnings. We looked at DBX, which is Dropbox, and what the thought on Dropbox was is that it would continue to show weakness below this line here. So I was actually looking for it to kind of trend back up towards this trend line, this downward trend line, a little bit before turning back over and being a short opportunity. Hasn't done that yet, so we'll move on to the next one, which is TTD. TTD is the wow, the trade desk, and what a trade this was. We talked about the strength in the trade desk, the fact that it, really was already kind of at an all-time high with the gap into today's action. So what my suggestion is that if it continued to keep going higher, was to use the first 1 minute or 5 minute bar as your entry point. So here's the first 1 minute bar. It actually did dip down slightly okay, into the open. So there was no trade on this initially because there was no weakness in this name, and I did not have a short trade on this stock unless it managed to get back below this red trend line. So right here at the 117.03 level would have been your entry point. So you can see it went down, bounced, and then crossed over. So the entry point was 117.06. Entering with for me, an option. And you see the extremely strong move all the way up past even the, it had already passed as of this morning. It didn't even come down a little bit. It had already passed through this 23 fib extension. And it's kind of in the middle here of that and the 61 extensions. Probably, it could be around 50, actually. We'll take a look at that. Just to take a look. Let's see if we can put a 50 on it up here. No, I don't have the option. So we'll just leave it as is right now. But it looks like it's right there in the middle almost. It went up to 130.84, which to me is just a huge move. I mean, huge move. $33, 35% move. So from our purchase price, let's see, if you were to enter where I said to enter, you would have entered at 117.06. From there to the top, to the high of the day, that is $13 plus, more than $13. So, I mean, if you're still in it, you should pull your stop up to right here, which is 123.70. That is probably about a half back, like half back from 130.84. It seems to be bouncing there, but if it doesn't hold this trend line here, this 50 trend line, if it can't hold that and it starts coming down below it, it looks like a little mini head and shoulders pattern there. So it's got to get back above this 128 level, 129 level, and really just keep going in order for you to keep holding it. Otherwise, I would say take your profits and call it a day. I mean, that's a great trade if you got into that. Okay, so that's TTD. So that one worked out. Planet Fitness, PLNT. This one I said was a potential weak play. I don't expect Planet Fitness to just keep shooting up parabolically the way it basically is, just consistently on an uptrend. Looking at the weekly again on this stock, I mean, it's just parabolic. So my thought for this stock was that it would potentially find some resistance here at this line, this uptrend line, and to potentially break back down below it. So what I had expected to happen was that it might show some strength in the morning just based on earnings momentum, but then it would eventually come down below this trend line. It has not done that yet. It has put in a really huge doji, which is a small body with two big tails on either side in a candlestick pattern. But it's resting here at this line right now. So we'll see how the rest of the day plays out. I will actually move my alert back up to like right around here. It did spike down actually into this, back into the range, but found some support. So, but it made a lower high. So we'll see if it can't get back above that 52.50 level, and actually does come back down below this trend line here. I might look to take a short play on it for this gap fill. This gap right here between today's low and yesterday's high. So, and that'll be my trade, and you can see it's showing some weakness now. So you can take a look at that if that's something you want to trade. Last is OLED, OLED. This stock, I mentioned that it could be strong out of the open, and if you wanted to take a short-term long trade on it, to just use the first 1 minute high or 5 minute high as your trade. 1 minute high would have been the way to go, because the first 5 minute high is, let's see, way up here. So if you would have traded that first 1 minute high, you would have got in at 113, and you would have had the ability to make about $4 in profit, up to 117. We talked yesterday about the first target for this stock being the 117.38 pivot right here, and then potentially it could get to 119.14, which is the next pivot. Now, as you can see from the chart, it hit that 117.38 level and actually went through it. But it has since come right back down and has shown some real weakness. So we talked about this being a really strong pivot just based on this big line, big bar here, hitting it and coming straight back down. Also, I believe, yeah, it's somewhere here near a gap as well. So, pretty big pivot there. Lots of kind of room here to move around. So, that would have also been a good short opportunity. We did talk about if it found some resistance up here, to potentially, you could potentially short it, but that this stock is more of a long play than anything else. So if you would have gotten the long play, it would have been just that very first part of the day. And it did really just hit that 117.38 level, cross above it, and is now showing some weakness. So those are the stock plays for today. We'll follow up towards the end of the day and into the weekend. We'll talk about some other options for next week. Next week is a big week for earnings as well. We have Macy's, Home Depot, a lot of retail names, as well as some tech names, Applied Materials. So we'll get into a few of the names for next week that are reporting earnings, talk through some of those chart patterns, and we'll circle back on them as the week progresses. So thanks again for joining and for listening. And if you have any questions, feel free to message me or add them to the comments section. And if you want to get alerted to my next video, please be sure to subscribe. Thanks so much. Take care.